Good evening. You're tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Soraya Mia. Dialogue sessions are allowed in universities but must be bound by rules and not undermine harmony on campus. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said this at a dialogue session with students at UiTM Shah Alam earlier today.
Saya terbuka kepada datang-datang, tapi kena ikut. Ada peraturan dia, kena maklum, kena bagi tahu dewan mana, itu saja. Tetapi saya tidak fikir kita haruskan. Melainkan, saya sebut melainkan kalau ada sikap yang membawa permusuhan kaum ke agama, itu kita tegas. Saya tak peduli. Saya tetap jaga supaya keselamatan negara terkawal, tidak terlangsung.
Anwar was responding to a student's question regarding Syed Sadiq's Abolish AWKU tour at public universities. The Muar MP was denied entry into the Shah Alam UiTM campus recently after the university claimed he did not get an approval through official channels for the event. Anwar also maintained that the Universities and University College Act 1971 should not be abolished entirely, but improved by amending some of its provisions. On Thursday, the Higher Education Minister Datuk Seri Khalid Nordin announced that amendments to AWKU is expected to be tabled in Parliament this year and that would give students more freedom to engage in political activities on campus. Anwar Ibrahim also said he will discuss with Transport Minister Anthony Loke on subsidizing flight tickets for university students ahead of Aidilfitri celebrations. He said many are burdened by the high cost of flight tickets, especially for families in East Malaysia.
Subsidi tiket untuk students ni make sense lah. Mungkin kita kena gunding dengan syarikat penerbangan. Dia ada certificate student ke setahun sekali maka diberikan. Boleh saya bincang dengan petani itu. Tapi maknanya saya terima ini satu masalah. Kerana keluarga yang dari Sabah Sarawak atau dari sini yang ke Sabah Sarawak tidak semua keluarga yang senang dan mungkin terbeban kalau kos tinggi.
The Health Ministry has established a transplant committee to monitor organ donations among living donors involving unrelated or foreign donors recipient pairs. This follows claims of organ trafficking existing in the country, which Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Hisham Abdullah said should be taken seriously.
Nur Hisham added that organ trafficking goes against medical ethics and must be investigated under the Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act 2007. Authorities can take action against any individual or organisation involved in human trafficking for the purpose of illegal organ transfer under the Act. On Monday, Machang MP Wan Ahmad Faisal Wan Ahmad Kamal claimed that people were selling their kidneys to make ends meet in a bid to illustrate the state of the people's finances. He and several other opposition MPs were calling for another round of EPF withdrawals, which they said was much needed by those heavily affected by the high cost of living.
The Melaka state government recently appointed 10 deputy executive councillors, while Chief Minister Datuk Seri Abdul Rauf Yusof said their appointments would allow assemblyperson in the government bloc to play a more prominent role in the state administration. Many question the relevancy of these roles. Here to weigh in on the issue is Power Group Asia's Arina Najwa Ahmad Said.
So what is the purpose of having these timbalans and what are their roles? So if these roles are really to support and help their superiors and really add value, then of course, I don't think people would have a lot of question around it. But I think now, given the abolishment, and it seems also as a means to form a stronger unity government or a more united front, that's where some of the questions have come up. And obviously then, especially when you hear talks of the Prime Minister also not taking salaries, why are we also then having more roles? Especially as a timbalan exco role, which may not be economical right now. So I think it's a question of the trade-off. Are there roles, at this point in time worthy of having these roles existing at this point? And is it a good use of our state funds?
Arena added that rift within the coalition may impact their ability to work together, especially in preparing for state elections.
So I think at the surface level, I think you get that of a more united front. But I think what happens behind the scenes is I think there's a trust deficit still, or could be, within the state exco composition, because you do have these personalities who were previously from UMNO suddenly removed and now having to work with the local government. And you have to remember, in comparison to federal, state level excos, they all know each other, they're very close, they know who the communities are. So there could be some trust deficit at that level, or maybe just an adjustment to working together. And of course, this will impact a bit more in terms of the internal UMNO politics within there as well, because some may have felt that this was an abrupt move, when it comes to changing these excos. Where the trust deficit will come in is their willingness to work together with their coalition members during the state elections. And I think that's something that's going to be observed, right? Because during state elections, that's when you have all hands on deck, everyone's campaigning together. But when you have that trust deficit, even within the coalition and within the party, that can be quite challenging. Otherwise, in terms of the result, I don't foresee any changes because, like I said, people would have already made up their minds by now, but it's more of the dynamics of how they work together.
More after the break. Stay with us.
Perlukan penyelesaian semalaman untuk kulit cantik? Baharu, Vaseline Glutathione Overnight Radiance Repair dengan kepekatan 10 masker muka. Bangun pagi dengan kulit terhidrat, berseri dan anjal. Vaseline Baharu.
Sering menggaya dan menyikat menyebabkan rambut gugur. Lupakan rambut gugur. Dove Hair Boost Nourishment Baharu. Shampoo bertekstur ringan dengan micellar membersih akar rambut dan kalsium kompleks menguatkan rambut untuk 10 kali kurang rambut gugur. Dove Baharu.
The Israeli military has launched airstrikes in southern Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. This follows a spate of reported rocket attacks from Lebanon onto northern Israel on Thursday. The escalation in tensions comes after Israeli forces stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem earlier this week.
The strikes were in retaliation for rocket attacks the Israeli military blamed on Hamas. There were no immediate reports of casualties or injuries in Lebanon or Gaza. Meanwhile, Lebanon said it would submit an official complaint to the United Nations Security Council, calling Israel's strikes a violation of its sovereignty. The cross-border fighting comes at a time when Jews are celebrating the Passover holiday and Muslims are marking the holy month of Ramadan. In 2021, an escalation that was also triggered by clashes at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound spilled over into an 11-day war between Israel and Gaza's Hamas rulers, which saw over 200 Palestinians killed and nearly 2,000 more injured.
China sent aircraft and warships near Taiwan for a second day after President Tsai Ing-wen met U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy earlier this week. Taipei's defense ministry reported 3 Chinese warships in waters around the island, while a fighter jet and an anti-submarine helicopter also crossed its airspace. Beijing, which views Taiwan as part of its territory, had repeatedly warned against the meeting and said it would take forceful measures to safeguard national sovereignty. It also imposed further sanctions on Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the United States, Xiaobi Kim, banning her and family members from entering the mainland, Hong Kong and Macau. Additionally, the sanctions prohibit investors and firms related to Xiao from cooperating with mainland organizations and individuals. China imposed similar sanctions last August after McCarthy's predecessor Nancy Pelosi visited the island nation. This includes an entry ban on 7 Taiwanese officials and lawmakers, including Xiao, whom it accused of being pro-independent. However, the sanctions would have little impact as senior Taiwanese officials do not visit China, while Chinese courts do not have jurisdiction in Taiwan. Searchers have found debris, including an unused lifeboat, a door, and other fragments from a missing Japanese Army helicopter with 10 on board. The helicopter presumed to have crashed at sea on Thursday. So far, no survivors have been found. Japan's defense military said if no survivors are found, the crash would be Japan's deadliest military aviation accident since 1995. The helicopter went missing after disappearing from radar screens off the coast of Miyako Island in the southern Japanese prefecture of Okinawa. Japan is aggressively ramping up its defense capability in southern Western islands in response to China's increasingly assertive military activity in the region, including near Taiwan. Officials said the helicopter was stationed at a key army base in Kumamoto Prefecture on Japan's southern main island of Kyushu. Meanwhile, more than 5,000 people have fled to Thailand from eastern Myanmar in recent days as fighting between the junta and armed resistance groups in the border area intensified. Thai officials said the group, including more than 800 children, crossed from Myanmar's Mawadi district on Wednesday night to seek refuge in Thailand's Tak province. Footage from Thailand's public broadcaster showed crowds of people, including children, in the town of Mae Sot. Fighting broke out when ethnic rebels allied with pro-democracy People's Defense Force attacked a Myanmar army outpost on the border. Thai officials told the Associated Press that clashes were still ongoing on Thursday and that gunfire could be heard from the Thai side. Since a military coup ousted the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi in February 2021, some ethnic armed groups that have fought the army for decades have joined forces with anti-coup groups to try to remove the generals from power. There is no easy answer to Malaysia's burgeoning stray animal population. What can be done, experts say, is to neuter the animals to get to the root of the problem.
First of all, we have to identify what the root cause is, right? Stray animals are not wild animals. You know, they're domestic animals and pets that were dumped back in the day and not neutered, irresponsible pet ownership. They start breeding on the streets, and that's how they overpopulate, right? So why is because a lot of people, first of all, education, right? So people are not educated on how important it is to neuter your pets, right? So neutering them, because even if you're like, oh, you know, I'm just going to keep this dog or cat forever, you never know what happens. They might run away, you know, you might pass away, and then, you know, people can't be bothered to let them go. It might get too difficult. You never know. So always get them neutered, because the last thing you want is for them to run in the streets and start breeding, okay?
Meanwhile, veterinarian Dr. Salihatul Khuzaimah Muhammad Ali says one of the challenges to get people to neuter their pets is the lack of awareness of its importance.
It's not an easy task, actually, I believe, because of the awareness about how actually we care for these animals is still low in our country, because they still treat animals like animals. Okay, so that's probably one of the main reasons that animal is not treated as what they should be treated. For example, they have not been cared properly, so they don't have the awareness of neutering as the main solution for to deal with this kind of issues. And other points are why neutering is probably, some people still think that it's important to control the population of the stray animals. Is one, probably certain people still think that it's religion-wise, they thought it's haram to neuter. I mean, certain people thought that neutering might take off their nature, I mean behavior, in having a family, that kind of things. Yeah. So that kind of mentality, actually, we should stop. Okay, we should educate them that pets or animals, actually, they don't have like nafsu, that kind of things, because they are triggered, or they are basically are hormonal based. So that's why they have the tendency of getting to mate and breed.
Catch the episode on It's About You tonight at 10:30 p.m. And that wraps up the show tonight. Thanks for watching. My name is Raya Mia, and we'll see you again